So, figure out who we're killing yet? Oh, fuck.
What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the Game Chamber. And now my long-awaited and slightly delayed, maybe moderately delayed, review of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Long awaited for some, long dreaded for some, regardless, a game that is following up on a phenomenal run from Rocksteady in the Arkham series, the trilogy that ended about 9 years ago. And Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a game that was announced a number of years ago and has gone through many delays for a myriad of reasons, one of which the collective fan base saying, "What the fuck are you doing? What is this gameplay trailer?" No. So nonetheless, this is a third-person action multiplayer shooter. You can call it a live action shooter or a live service shooter, I guess, although we haven't quite got to that side of the game yet. But you have the four core members of this universe's Justice League, Task Force X. Of course, you got Harley Quinn, you've got Deadshot, you've got King Shark, and then rounding it out is the Mr. Aussie himself, Captain Boomerang. All of which are characters that most of us have some familiarity with, if nothing else from the Suicide Squad movies that came out a number of years ago. But this is continuing on the story from Arkham Knight. It's the same universe, it's the same canonical timeline, although many of us are going to choose to ignore that fact for good reason. You have four characters here, all of which that have a very similar setup. You have a gun, you have a melee weapon, you have a traversal mechanic, and you're essentially going around and doing these little mini missions in an open world metropolis while Brainiac has taken over the entire city and has brainwashed and taken control of the Justice League. And as Task Force X, you are commissioned to kill the Justice League, hence the title. Now, this is a game that I've been very curious about ever since it was announced. They announced this, I believe, simultaneously with Gotham Knights that came out last year. And what made this one a little bit more interesting of a project, aside from the fact that I thought the idea was interesting, was that this was Rocksteady proper that was going to be doing this. The same studio that gave us the three main Arkham universe games. Whereas WB Games Montreal, if I'm not mistaken, are the ones that did Gotham Knights, and they're the ones that did Arkham Origins, which is a very underrated game, don't get me wrong. Not quite on the level of the other three games in the Arkham universe, but a very good game. So I was curious about both of them, but Kill the Justice League had my attention much stronger. Until about a year later when they actually showed what the gameplay was looking like and what the traversal was going to look like and what the game itself was actually going to be. And immediately, like most of us, I got that sinking feeling of, oh God, they learned the absolute wrong lessons from Marvel's The Avengers. The outcry from Arkham fans was monumental. They got the message loud and clear and delayed the release of the game, I believe, over a year, and said they were going to go back to the drawing board and they were going to change the direction of the game and everything. And all the while, everything that we continue to see from it still looked like a game that was started and put into production for the wrong reasons. They tried to pivot and play damage control, and ultimately what we got is a broken mess of a game that is supposed to sustain us for a number of months with this little drip feed of content coming out, these season releases. But this has been one of the most monumental drop-offs as far as the number of people playing it that I have seen in a very long time. So I'm not even entirely convinced that we're going to get that. I finally suffered through, and yes, I mean that literally, suffered through the last few chapters of this game, got through the end of the story. I have not bothered to do any of the post-story content, nor do I ever plan to, unless I just see a collective of everybody saying how much better the game has gotten months after the game's release. And even then, I'll probably take it with a bolder assault. But I finished the game. Now it's time to talk about it.
What's the plan?
Time for us bad guys to save the world.
Starting off with the positives, this is a very high production value game. This is a level of production value that you would expect from the people that gave us the Arkham universe games. It is on par with that, if not even kind of expanding that a bit. With the power of the PlayStation 5, I think that the graphics are incredible. I think the character models and the motion capture work especially look really good with all of these characters. The voice acting is top-notch all across the board. You have some returning voice actors from the Arkham universe, most notably Kevin Conroy, who we're experiencing this game after his unfortunate death. So for a long time, this was believed to be his last outing as Batman. Apparently there's still something else that hasn't been released. I don't know specifically what it is, but regardless, a top-notch voice acting cast. You even got Samoa Joe in here playing King Shark and doing a great job. And so I think that on a production value standpoint, especially when it comes to the cutscenes of the game, it's top-notch. I also really enjoyed the story. There were a number of times, I might have even said it live when I was streaming this game, that I kind of wish I would just watch a movie of these characters, of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Like, keep all the bullshit gameplay that you're trying to get me to suffer through and just give me this story, give me these cutscenes tethered together, and I will happily watch that. Like, the production value is a side of that, but the story itself of these little ragtag group of criminals that have to take on the most powerful beings in the universe because they're being mind controlled by this nefarious villain, and you get to see dark sides of the Flash and Green Lantern and Superman and most notably Batman. It was a really good story, and it was the only thing that kept me interested, that motivated me to get through these just repetitive, mind-numbing, basic bitch wash, rinse, repeat missions that this game is riddled with, to get to the next piece of the story and see how much better the story was going to get, or to see the next Justice League member and see their dark, nefarious side. I was very invested in this story. And I especially liked the writing, the comedic writing, more so than anything else, of the banter between these four members. I thought that there were some genuinely funny moments. There was one very early on in the game where they keep electrocuting Penguin. They keep giving Amanda Waller like false information that he's getting away, even though he's down on the ground, and she keeps sending a shock to him. Like, there's moments in the storyline, again, in the cutscenes, that are genuinely funny, and there's just a good Guardians of the Galaxy style, but a little darker, a little bit meaner cadence to the humor here that I enjoyed.
Fricasseed Penguin. Let's get him to... Oh my god, he's getting up.
Hitting him again.
As far as the mixed aspect, the main one for me is the very dark, and I'll just call it ballsy, direction that they took as far as continuing on the Arkham universe, primarily with the Batman character. This is canonical with those three games that ended with Batman, you know, faking his death, essentially. They didn't say that outright by the end of the game, but you could always assume. Basically, he walks into the Wayne Manor, it explodes, and this is after Gotham City has been revealed that Bruce Wayne has been Batman the entire time, and that's the end of the story that we had. So this continues on after that, where Batman has come back out of the shadows and he has met the other members of the Justice League. They created the Justice League. Now he's being turned evil and he's turned murderous. And it leads eventually to the ending of his character, which was leaked all over social media about a week before this game came out and had everybody losing their mind about just what a disrespectful direction this was to take this character. And I was one of the few people that was like, that's pretty interesting, actually. That's kind of ballsy. That's really unique that they would do that to this beloved character, and they would take it in this direction that would quite honestly piss off a lot of fans. And I always had this sneaking suspicion that there's probably more to it. There's probably a twist. Maybe this is a clone. Maybe these are alternate universe or something like that. And where the mixed comes in is that we don't fucking know if that's true or not, because the game cuts off at a certain point and leaves off the conclusion of the storyline and whatever else they have planned for these season releases. And so you don't really get to know whether this is actually the canonical end to that Batman and that universe, or if there's more to it. And the fact that I have to wait and continue to be blackmailed to come back and play this game month after month after month to potentially find out that there's more to it, I fucking hate that. So on one end, I'd be one of the people that would high-five them and say, hey, you were ballsy, you took a chance. It's not going to pay off for everybody, but it's going to pay off for someone. But if you're not going to actually follow through with your whole story, it does make that feel gross. And it does make that feel very shock value baiting. And it does make it feel a tad disrespectful. So I don't know where I'm going to land eventually. I'm probably going to more likely just read on Wikipedia what the end of this story is. But You could have had something interesting there, and you fucking fumbled it. Now moving on to the negatives, and the main one is the gameplay. The gameplay is not very good. I mean, I was playing this game, and I was going through the tutorials, and even in the first hour, 2 hours that I was playing this on my early access that I paid $100 like a dumbass to get access to so I could stream it, I just kept saying, it's okay. Like, the combat's all right. The shooting feels fine. The melee feels fine. The traversal's okay. It's not as good as it was in the 3 Arkham games, you know, or I guess the 2 of them that had the traversal. It's just fine. And that's not what I expect out of the company that brought us those 3 Arkham games. Those are top-notch, AAA, gameplay-driven masterpieces in my mind. This is such a step down that it's heartbreaking. First of all, the Arkham universe games are known for their really intuitive combat and their really unique combat, and being able to just drop Batman into a room of 50 dudes and be able to take them all out with all these different combos and all these different mechanics. And it was one of the strongest parts of the game. Here, they lose all of that and just give you some of the most generic shooting and melee and grenade throwing repetition that you have experienced in years. And clearly they're trying to take inspiration from things like Fortnite. Fortnite does it significantly better than this. They try to give you this motivation to continue to play and continue to level up with XP and continue to, you know, gain currency so that you can exchange it with the Penguin and other characters for higher weapons and mods and everything. And look, maybe I didn't go far enough into the game to experience like some significantly badass weapon or upgrade, but I never really felt the gameplay change all that much, no matter what higher grade things I was putting on my character. It never felt like the gun was working better. It never felt like I was kicking more ass. It never felt like there was these awesome combos that I was unlocking throughout the game that just made the combat suddenly so interesting and fun to watch and fun to play. It was the exact same vibe that I got in the opening tutorial mission that I was having 10 hours into this game. Just bleh. It doesn't help when you have like 3-4 different varieties of enemies. Like, they change colors and they have certain buffers put on them later on to kind of represent the current Justice League member that you are focusing the story on. Like the Flash characters, you have to stun them, otherwise they can't be hit because they're fast, and other things like that that tries to change up the gameplay, but they're still the same character models. They're still the same attacks. They're still the same looks. They're still the same vibes during these little missions, these little fights. And it's just the same 4 or 5 different mission varieties that are brought out too, where it's like this one, you just kill a bunch of things. This one over here, oh, you gotta shoot these little computer pods so that it opens up the shield and you can shoot the big thing. Or you have, oh, go kill a bunch of people until you have access to a citizen, and then grab them and then go take them to this bus. These are missions that you would typically have in a video game as fluff. They would be these little side missions or these little things that you would do to get a trophy or to extend out a game's runtime. This is your core gameplay in Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. And from what I heard, the post-game content is all of that shit just recycled with a new skin on it. I didn't even like the traversal here, which I might have already kind of teased in talking about, but you had the Batman Arkham games that were phenomenal, from Arkham City to Arkham Knight, where you had the gliding abilities and you had the grappling hooks, and you could continue to glide across that entire city, utilizing all the mechanics at your disposal and never touch the ground. It's fucking impossible to do that in Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League, no matter what character you have, one of which has a jetpack, the other one's just super strong and can jump high, the other one has access to Batgirl's drone, and the other one has Flash's like teleport ability, basically the Speed Force. You have like 2 good jumps before you're out of energy and your character just falls. So you either have to go from rooftop to rooftop, or you just have to continue to fall, run up the top of a building, and then get back into the air. And so even getting from point A to point B being another boring asshole combat mission, even that side of it was so uninspired and was just so frustrating and just had no fun factor to it whatsoever. And ultimately, the biggest issue with this game was that the thing that we all saw just writing on the wall from the first gameplay footage, and that was a company pivoting away from what they have done phenomenally for the last decade plus, have a massively popular and a massively acclaimed video game series under their belt. They pivot away from what they do well and what they know well to try to copy something for more potential profit. Like just an absolute corporate dude who has no fucking idea why the Arkham games are so beloved, making decisions. And I don't necessarily blame the development team. I think a lot of them probably did the best that they could. There's a lot of them that did phenomenal work with the story and with the cutscenes, as I've already said, but this game was just an ill-conceived concept from the beginning. This could have been a phenomenal third-person, story-based single-player game. But trying to implement multiplayer, trying to implement the season pass bullshit and this pay-to-win thing with the credits, and no, fuck all of that. We're all tired of that. It's a shame that every single piece of entertainment out there always seems to learn the worst lessons from somebody's success. There's a reason why Fortnite is so successful, and it's because they do what they do very well. And they have a very particular style to them that you really can't emulate without feeling like you're a lesser version of it. So the fact that we had Marvel's The Avengers come out and try to do this and bombed miserably, and now the DC games are trying to copy a failure with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, many people that I have seen saying that this is even more of a failure than Marvel's The Avengers, a game that admittedly I only played for like an hour or two, so I can't really comment on that. Why they would do that? Why they would allocate all their time and resources and put their reputation at stake to just try to milk money out of people with a service game, with a season pass model. And one of the biggest failures of that is that if you're going to try to have a game that you're going to milk engagement and milk money out of your fans and your players for an extended period of time, more than you would get out of somebody that just buys a game and has that one story-based experience with, then you better make the gameplay fucking phenomenal. You better make this a game that is like a dopamine drip that people just cannot wait to get back to, that every day when they get home from work or they get home from school, first thing they're doing is turning on their PlayStation and getting right back into this world. This is anything but that. So, epic failure. Absolute epic failure on that front. So all in all, guys, there's not really much else to say. I wish I could have been a different flavor added to the conversation. I wish maybe this is a game that I appreciated more than others, or I found some merit in here that nobody was acknowledging, but this is just one of those games where I'm gonna unfortunately repeat all of the things that people have been saying for the past month about it and agree wholeheartedly that this is a giant failure. This is a game that is not worth anywhere near the price that they are charging for it. And even though it's a very short game, 10 to 12 hours, I actually suffered through the last third to half of it, just grinding through it so that I could feel like I experienced enough of it to merit me doing a full review and knowing what the fuck I'm talking about. So, huge disappointment from Rocksteady. I hope they learn the right lessons from this failure and get back to what they're good at and what the fans actually want from them, and none of this bullshit that they tried to pull with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And if in the post-release content, if in the season pass or whatever the hell they end up calling it, if the game does get significantly better, please feel free to let me know. Maybe I'll jump back into it eventually, but this was a chore to get through, and that's one of the worst things you can say about a video game that is supposed to be fun, is that it was work to get through. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed that, please click over here for a playlist of my 2024 game reviews so far. I'm also going to put a link to the live stream that I did playing Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League if you want to experience my pain in real time. Like, share, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss everything in the future. And as always, remember, the Game Chamber is Commander Shepard's favorite channel on the YouTubes.